What is up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. We are going to be working on the S13 again, and I'm just going to jump right into it because let's get this car done. So this video, we are going to be working on the oil cooler. So I have a Koyo oil cooler and a Greddy oil filter relocation block that I want to install. So we're going to figure out where we're mounting this in the engine bay or on the car and plumb up lines, and it should be as simple as that. So let's get started. Okay, so like I mentioned, we are going to be doing the oil cooler and oil filter relocation today. These are the parts that we're going to be using. So just to go over, on the engine we do have, if you can see in there, so we do have a Tomei oil block adapters. So this essentially deletes the oil filter block and just replaces it with the AN fittings that you see there. And then, like I mentioned, we've got a Koyo oil cooler and then also a Greddy thermostatic oil filter relocation block. So pretty straightforward. We'll be using -10 PTFE AN line along with the corresponding PTFE fittings. I've got an assortment of straight 30, 45, 60, all the way up to 90-degree fittings. And then something a little different that I was thinking about trying is using some bulkheads in the engine bay for the lines to pass through, instead of going through like an opening, say like here or in between the TC rod bracket and the frame. I wanted to try and install some bulkheads maybe here on the tub so that the line can attach to that and then go through. It's kind of like 2-in-1. It'll hold the line in place, but then I guess the downside to that would be it's just another connection point that could potentially leak. But I don't know, we'll see when we start digging into this. First thing we're gonna do is figure out where we can mount the oil filter relocation block, because most people mount it up on the strut tower area here. But as you can see, or as you saw in previous videos, I mounted my ethanol content sensor on the strut tower here. We also have the fuel filter down there, so things are pretty tight over here. I do still plan on keeping the coolant overflow tank, which is in this spot. So yeah, we're pretty limited on space here. So I was actually thinking about mounting it inside the bumper. And then as for the cooler, I was thinking to mount that probably somewhere in this opening here. I'd like to put it down in a corner of the vent, but lines would be really long, and this would be the safest place because it's behind the bash bar. But then the downside is I already have an intercooler, we'll have the oil cooler, I have AC condenser, and then we'll have the radiator here. So we've got a lot of things stacked up on top of each other. So I'm not sure how efficient the cooling is going to be, but I guess we'll just see when we get there. So yeah, let's get the car up in the air and we'll take a look at where we can potentially mount the Ready oil filter relocation block. So before we put the car up in the air, I actually decided it'd probably be better to assemble the Ready oil filter relocation block. So I'm just putting some thread sealant on the sensor plug there, and then just lubing up all the O-rings for the AN fittings, as well as that orange cap that I just put on. So the grease I'm actually using to lubricate these O-rings, funny enough, it's energy suspension grease that comes with their bushing kits. I actually like to use this because it's a silicone-based lubricant, opposed to using oil or something like that. I feel like this is just safe for pretty much any O-ring or rubber gasket that I come across. So just tightening up the fittings here, and we'll be good to go to get the car up in the air and figure out where we want to put this. But before we get to that, a customer came by to get one tire replaced on their Wed's Ratzinger. So let's get this tire switched out and then we'll get back to the oil cooler. Okay, so I was thinking of putting the oil filter relocation block somewhere around this area. I have already removed the washer fluid bottle that was here. It basically came up to here and took up this, actually it came up to here and took up this area. But I removed it because it just didn't leave us much room, and I'll probably end up putting a aftermarket one in the bay at some point. So I've put some fittings on this already that I think will help us with where the lines need to go. And I was thinking of mounting this somewhere around here, mainly because I still wanted this to be able to drain when I remove the oil filter doing oil changes. One of my biggest pet peeves on the stock location is when you remove the oil filter, the oil drains out and it ends up all over the cross member and it just creates a mess. So I'm thinking somewhere here you'll be able to remove the filter and it can just drain directly into your pan or whatever. So I think this will be a good spot. It is also behind the rebar still, and it's actually about in line with the radiator support. So in the event of a crash, I think we've got bigger concerns than the oil filter relocation block getting damaged if we're hitting the car that hard up to the radiator support. So yeah, let's make up some brackets to get this mounted here, and we'll try doing that with a little bit of YouTube magic.
Oh my God! Wow!
We've got the oil filter relocation block mounted. I just ended up going to a bolt on the headlight bracket, and then a bolt here for my battery tie down. Put in the cold pipe to make sure that we've got clearance for everything, and yeah, it seems pretty good. The relocation is sturdy and we'll be able to pull the filter off, let the oil drain out, not all over anything. And what I like is I'll be able to prime my oil filters before I put them back on, because some of the ones where you have the relocation mounted the other way up and the filter is pointed downwards, there'd be no way to pre-fill your filter. So now that we've got this mounted, we can move on to figuring out our mounting for the oil cooler. So let's do that.
A few moments later.
Okay, so I've stuck the oil cooler up in this location. There's really nowhere else I can really put it because we're pretty tight on space. And I think this OEM bracket is kind of perfect for this oil cooler. So I'm gonna make some mounts to get the cooler mounted up.
12 o'clock midnight.
And just like that, the bracket is mounted and the oil cooler is in place. I actually ended up trimming the headlight bracket here as well, so that the fitting and line have room to pass through. So let's lower the car and take a look from the top to see how it's mounted. All right, so like I said, cooler is mounted. Oh. That was actually UPS dropping off a package. If you didn't know, we're actually the Canadian distributor for Kabuki Tech mirrors, and that's what this is. Set of S13 mirrors for a customer. But yeah, so if you're looking to get your hands on some Kabuki Tech mirrors, just DM us, or we have them available on our website. These are great quality cast aluminum bases, power motors for the mirrors, and just really high quality mirrors. But let's get back to the oil cooler. Okay, so we can see that the cooler is mounted at the bottom using the OEM bracket there. I just made some brackets out of aluminum plate, and then the top here, it bolts to the top of the radiator support. So we've got the cooler mounted and the oil filter relocation mounted. So at this point, we just need to go from the oil block adapter on the engine, those two lines, to our filter relocation. And I was thinking to go through somewhere around here probably, maybe mount some bulkheads for the lines to connect to and pass through, and then go to the oil filter relocation. So yeah, I guess we'll start drilling this out and install the bulkheads, and then it's just a matter of making the lines. So let's do that. Alright, so as you can see here, I've got a straight fitting on this port to the oil cooler. And then if you can see up there, I also have another fitting up there that's going to run, it's hard to see, but it's going to run downwards through here, through this opening, and out through here, and probably connect to these fittings here. So I think that's the route I'm gonna go. So yeah, let's make the lines for these, and that should be pretty straightforward. connected that line to the oil cooler here. It runs up over the rebar or the bumper bar and comes over the top. I plan on fastening it to probably this hole here, and then it can run over to the fitting here. So I've just marked where I want to cut, so I can pull this line back out, cut it, and finish the other hose end, and then we can move on to the next line. So let's do that. So we got those lines finished, so it's just a matter of hooking them up to the cooler. So I've got that top one hooked up, not sure if you can really see it, and I'm about to hook up this bottom one, but I'm actually going to put this filter in the cooler because this line is the feed line to the cooler from the oil filter relocation block. So this just slips into the port like this, and just kind of sandwiches in between the male and female AN fitting. So I'm gonna hook up the line, get all the lines hooked up, and I'll show you guys the end result. So that is everything mounted with the lines. So cooler is mounted, lines are connected to it. I know it's difficult to see here, but they pass up and over the rebar, coming over to this side over here. If you can see up there, it does clear the headlight. I checked motion for the pop-ups to go up and down. That clears, and then it goes into our oil filter relocation, and from there it goes to our two bulkheads here. And I did put the cold pipe in just to show that we have clearance around the filter and around the lines. And we also do have clearance here. So we also do have clearance here. Obviously this car is on stock knuckles right now, but if I show you this way, even if I put an angle kit on later, it will still clear these lines. It'll hit the tub before it hits those lines. Same thing, it'll hit the sway bar or the TC rod before it hits those lines. So our clearance down here is all good, and it goes through to these bulkheads, which I'll show you the top right now. Okay, so like I showed from the bottom, that connected to two bulkheads, which are these ones right here. You can see one there, and then these two lines go to the Tomei oil block adapter on the engine. And there we have it. The oil cooler and relocation setup is complete on the S13. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know, what do you guys think? Do you think the bulkheads in the engine bay for the oil lines to go through were a good idea, or not really? My logic there was it kind of mounts the lines and keeps things clean, but obviously it is another connection point. I'm sure I mentioned in the beginning of the video or during the video, it is another connection point, it is another potential place for leak, but I think it was a good idea and I'm happy with it. Let me know also what you guys think about the oil filter relocation being down underneath the battery tray. Put it down in the comments if you would have done something different, or if you thought this was a good execution. Yeah, so hopefully you guys liked this video. If you did, make sure you click the like button. If you're not subscribed, make sure you click subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video where we make more progress on the S13.